If you're a fan of big movies, you've probably got a neatly organized laundry list of films to catch this year. From Star Wars: The Last Jedi to Wonder Woman, all the big flicks you won't want to miss are committed to your memory. But with all that focus on blockbusters, a ton of amazing picks may have slipped under your radar. Here are some of the underappreciated movie gems from 2017 that you just need to add to your list and watch as soon as possible. The Girl with All the Gifts. The zombie genre has been crowded for decades, and in the post-Walking Dead era, it's only grown more popular. It's hard to come up with a new spin on those shambling undead tropes. But The Girl with All the Gifts somehow manages to do it anyway. Adapted from M.R. Carey's novel, the story imagines a world in which much of the human population has been wiped out by a fungus-born zombie plague. Yes, just like in the video game The Last of Us. But in The Girl with All the Gifts, second-generation victims retain their human characteristics, even as they are consumed by a hunger for flesh, instead of turning into one of these. Oh no, the nightmares are gonna come back. In The Girl with All the Gifts, which saw a limited release in the US early in the year, the surface-level humanity poses a moral conundrum for a teacher tasked with educating the so-called hungries. And that's compounded by the harsh utilitarian views of the Doctor in command, played by Glenn Close. Like the best zombie horror, The Girl with All the Gifts is underlined with thought-provoking and existential questions about modern society and human nature, and it's also an insane thrill ride. The Red Turtle. Sweeping and life-affirming, this film is by Studio Ghibli. Yup, the same studio that made My Neighbor Totoro. The Red Turtle doesn't have a single sentence of dialogue, and that gives it a pinprick intensity that'll keep your eyes glued to the screen the entire time. The movie centers around an unnamed man shipwrecked on a deserted tropical island, who later encounters a giant red turtle. But it's far more than what it seems superficially. It dives deep into the tenderness and tribulations of what it means to be human, recounting milestones and memory markers set over gorgeous animated design aesthetics and an incredible score. While our nameless protagonist was set adrift by a storm, we follow along the moving plot and engrossing layout until we're turned inside out at the film's climax, one that builds and bursts without warning. The Red Turtle is truly an experience. It's utterly captivating for its characters, clues, and cry-inducing resolution, an absolute must-watch. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. Starring Brian Cox and Emile Hirsch as Tommy and Austin Tilden, The Autopsy of Jane Doe brings in frights and freakish encounters from the get-go, and doesn't let up until viewers are totally spooked. The father-son duo in the film have an unusual bond. They both work as coroners. While that alone is pretty strange, things get far more sinister when the Tildens are delivered the corpse of an unidentified woman, one that shows increasingly strange signs of trauma. Who is this woman? What happened to her? Is she even dead?
What's that for?
Make sure he's dead.
The Autopsy of Jane Doe sizzles with uneasiness and oddities, with a peppering of jump scares and gory slashings. It all bubbles over into a climax you won't see coming. Justice League Dark. You might have been too distracted by the blockbuster Marvel and DC releases coming this year to see Justice League Dark, which is a shame. The Warner Brothers-backed animated flick offers up a refreshing angle on the standard superhero storylines. It blends together razor-sharp wit and a lot of screen time for everyone's favorite trench-coated troublemaker, John Constantine. As the title implies, Justice League Dark is, well, much darker than your typical comic book movie. It's got a risky R rating from the MPAA, and it ventures into new territory beyond the stock points fans have become almost too familiar with. It maintains a quick pace and sets up a spine-tingling whodunit mystery, but it doesn't rest on shock for shock's sake or any fluff that falls flat. Though Constantine's trademark rapid-fire swearing is absent from the film, it's one that's absolutely worth a watch, now that you know it exists. You're welcome. The Law. Though this perfectly odd Polish flick saw an international release in 2015, it finally hit the States in February 2017, and it's hard to express how great that is for film fans. A mashup of musical camp and horror gore, sprinkled with classic movie monsters and vampires and mermaids. The Law is wicked and weird right down to its flippy fishtail. What's the premise, you ask? Well, its plot centers around mermaid vampires turned strippers.
Shut up and take my money!
Who attempt to lead normal lives, even under the neon lights of a nightclub, but their thirst for blood, sex, and violence causes rifts in their relationships, and also hurts their chances of staying stealthy. The Law is deliciously dicey with its characters, and turns on a dime with its disjointed scenes, but that's what makes it so gripping. It's no teeny bopper aquamarine dream, that's for sure.
Maybe you could meet me in Fiji sometime.
XX. If there's two things horror filmmakers love, it's anthologies and possessed children. This Sundance Film Festival gem brings together both in a blood-boiling marriage, the brainchild of a group of female directors, including St. Vincent, the indie rock guitar goddess. Her real name is Annie Clark, by the way. XX is comprised of 4 horror minifilms. The short stories weave through familiar relations of mother and son, past animalistic behaviors and into mental illnesses, and deep beyond the grit and gore of camping trips gone wrong. XX finds its strengths in its subtle silliness. While scary enough in their own right, the short tales are intercut with haunting stop-motion cutscenes that bring it all together. But there's still an element of campiness to it. It just all works. A Monster Calls. Looking at the poster for A Monster Calls, you might be tempted to assume it's just another young adult movie about a kid who hangs around with a talking tree monster. And hey, we already have the Guardians of the Galaxy, so who needs that? The reality, however, is far more complex and compelling. The film, which saw limited release in 2016 before opening wide this year, tells the story of a 12-year-old boy struggling to cope with his mother's terminal illness, while facing bullies at school and a prickly grandmother at home. Dark and honest in a way that family-friendly features rarely dare to be these days, A Monster Calls was perhaps destined to fall through the cracks in theaters, but it received heaps of praise from critics for a reason. Don't miss it. To the Bone. Minimalistic but moving, To the Bone tells a tale of illness and isolation. It follows Ellen, played by Lily Collins, a headstrong young woman who's been grappling with anorexia for most of her life. Enter Dr. William Beckham, played by an impeccably cast Keanu Reeves, who runs an eccentric wellness clinic and runs Ellen past her wit's end. Directed by Buffy the Vampire Slayer writer-producer Marty Noxon, To the Bone is black comedy at its best and most beautiful, full of crackling humor and sharp-tongued sarcasm. Netflix was so enamored with Noxon's directorial debut, the streaming service snatched up the rights to it back in January for a cool $8 million. Soon, you'll have no excuse to miss it. Lovesong. So Young Kim's Lovesong weaves a warm account of 2 women on the cusp of self-discovery. Mindy and her best friend Sarah embark on an impromptu road trip and are soon confronted with emotions they can't deny. Kim's past credits include incredibly introspective films such as In Between Days, For Ellen, and Treeless Mountain. And she brings the same kind of intricate and intimate details to this affecting drama. Lovesong is a treat for your heart as much as your eyes. With its gauzy pastel palette and elegant landscape, it'll leave you breathless at even the smallest moments. 20th Century Women. Set in 1979, this indie darling features an eclectic cast of characters that includes Annette Bening as liberal leftist Dorothea, Greta Gerwig as spunky redhead photographer Abby, and rebel without a cause Julie, portrayed by a rough around the edges Elle Fanning. These unique women come together to help raise Dorothea's son.
Wondering if you're happy, it's a great shortcut to just being depressed.
This dramedy, written and directed by Mike Mills, is a coming-of-age film that disregards age altogether. It brings to light the idea that it's never too late to start over, start for the first time, or start believing you can begin in the first place. With an engaging slice-of-life premise and pleasing honesty, the film ebbs and flows organically. Just be sure to have some tissues on hand, since it's pretty much guaranteed you'll get misty-eyed. A United Kingdom. Amma Asante sits in the director's seat for this 1940s foray into racial conflicts, family ties, and political motivations in a time of high tension and segregation. David Oyelowo and Rosamund Pike star as an incumbent African king, and Lily White Londoner Ruth Williams. The pair falls deep and fast for one another, much to the chagrin of those around them. Dodging attempts to break them apart and prevent them from eloping, the duo is pushed to defy odds and never back down. From screenwriter Guy Hibbert, A United Kingdom is at once powerful and appropriately uniting, piloting through the nooks and crannies of love and liberty to present a raw account of couple battling adversity. Though the film does lean away from the grittier elements of racism, Hibbert crafts a potent story that will leave any viewer changed for the better. Kedi. Next up on the list of films you've missed is possibly the one you'll be most bummed you didn't know existed. This is the internet, and as such, cats are worshipped as gods. Kedi is a documentary about the feral cats of Istanbul. The filmmakers took to the streets to introduce viewers to the free-roaming felines that lead surprisingly unique lives and the people who interact with them on a daily basis. Kedi features kittens with knacks for slipping into hidden alleyway crevices, cats that keep a keen eye on the docks for the incoming fish market shipments, and furry-faced friends perched upon doorsteps and behind shop counters. It can be silly on the surface, but Kedi has a big heart. And though it's centered around animals, the film's narrative feels utterly human. Very much a part of the local culture and the community of Istanbul, the cats and kittens of Kedi remind us that we're not born knowing hatred or judgment, illustrated through the remarkable respect between man and animal. Plus, adorable kittens! What's not to love? Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.